what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and yes, once again, a car video. Another busy day. I'm in the car line, so I do it whenever I can, and this is whenever I have a free moment, so I decided to do a video. And if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button, especially if you're a college football or college basketball fan. That's what we do here, videos every single day. Go check out my Patreon page, a wider selection of choices that you can choose from. And don't forget to send in your I am Golden Blue Dude or we are Golden Blue Dude video clip to my email address, refssuk@gmail.com. I'll leave my email in the description of this video. On to today's video, and it's kind of linked into the video that I did last night. Last night, I announced that Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh is bolting for the NFL. He had some rough years at Michigan, but then he had one great year, and now he's off to the NFL. But he's had some previous NFL experience, some good NFL experience. He coached the San Francisco 49ers, overall record 49-22 and one tie, one Super Bowl appearance. And I just think Jim Harbaugh is more comfortable in the NFL. He changed the atmosphere at Michigan from more of a pro atmosphere to a college atmosphere. But I don't think he was ever truly comfortable at Michigan. So I can't really fault Jim Harbaugh for going. It's just the timing. You know, Michigan gave him a second chance, had one great season, finally beat Ohio State, and now he's gone. So in my opinion, this could set off a chain of events as far as coaching changes for teams, grabbing coaches from other teams, then they're having to replace their coach, and on down the line. So Michigan will have to replace Jim Harbaugh, right? Well, who could they replace him with? Some of these are a stretch, I admit, but it's still plausible. So the first name that comes to mind is James Franklin out of Penn State. He did great at Vanderbilt, overall record 24-15. He's doing okay at Penn State, 67-34. It's the last couple of years that's really got him. He went 4-5 and then 7-6. But overall, I think James Franklin is a good head coach. He has a ton of experience, and I think he would do well at Michigan. So I think this would actually be a pretty good hire for Michigan. So that leaves Penn State with the vacancy. Who would they go out and get? Well, I think they could go out and get Lane Kiffin. That would be a splash hire. I don't know what the buyout is. It's probably something ridiculous. But Penn State has a big budget. Lane Kiffin would definitely bring some great offense. And Lane Kiffin is known as the jumper. Remember, he coached for Tennessee, then he jumped to USC. He was fired, then hired at FAU. Then he jumped to Ole Miss. Last year, he went 10-3. So he's a jumper, and he can have success. I think he could fit well at Penn State, and I think he would bring a lot of excitement into the Penn State football program. I think that'd be a pretty good hire. So now we have Ole Miss with a coaching vacancy. Who could they get? Well, what about Mel Tucker from Michigan State? I know this is only his third year at Michigan State. He went 11-2 last year. That's a great record, much better than what I thought they would do. Buyout's probably tremendous, but Ole Miss would need a great hire to replace Lane Kiffin, and I do think Mel Tucker would be a great hire. So now we're talking about Michigan State having a coaching vacancy. Who could they go after? Well, I think they could go after Mark Stoops at Kentucky. Mark Stoops has been there 9 years. He's had okay success, 59-53, but last year he went 10-3. Kentucky's a very tough place to win at, so he's done some tremendous things at Kentucky. I think he could do some great things at Michigan State. I think it would be a great hire. So now we're talking about Kentucky with the coaching vacancy. Who could they hire? I think they could go after Chip Kelly from UCLA. Chip Kelly coached Oregon from 2009 to 2012, went 46-7, got very close to a national championship, then tried his hand at the NFL where he sort of failed. He got hired at UCLA. So far, he's 18-25. Not a great record, but he's been building something. And this past year, UCLA went 8-4, and UCLA is poised to have a 10-win season this year. So yes, I do think Chip Kelly would be a decent hire at Kentucky. So now we're talking about UCLA with a coaching vacancy. Who could they go after? They could go after longtime Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham. He's been there since 2004. I didn't know that. That's a very long time. And so far, he's 144-70. That's a tremendous record. He went 10-4 last year, Pac-12 champs. I think UCLA could offer him just a little bit more money. And hey, I think he could have even more opportunities to win the Pac-12 at UCLA. Now we're talking about Utah with the coaching vacancy. Who could they go after? Well, they could go after Iowa State's Matt Campbell. And we've all said Matt Campbell is a Midwest person. He's a Midwest coach. So this would be a good fit for Matt Campbell, and he would be taking a slight step up. He coached at Toledo from 2011 to 2015, has some good success, 35-15, and he's coached at Iowa State from 2016 to now. Not all that great success, 42-34, but compared to where Iowa State was, he's done some pretty good things. Last year they finished a disappointing 7-6, but he still has Iowa State on the up and up. But maybe he's hit his ceiling at Iowa State and he wants to move on. Well, Utah would be a great opportunity, and he would be staying in the Midwest. So now we're talking about Iowa State with a coaching vacancy. Who could they hire? Well, they could hire Daniel Holgorsen from Houston, the former West Virginia head coach. From 2011 to 2018, moderate success, 61-41. He's been at Houston since 2019, 19-15 overall, but this past year, 12-2. Now, Houston's already going to the Big 12, so the Big 12 factor really isn't a big deal, but maybe Iowa State could offer him a little bit more money than Houston. I'm not sure about the financial aspect right there. So that one's a little shaky, a little iffy, but I think it's plausible. So then we would be talking about Houston with a coaching vacancy, and I'm thinking Brady Hoke from San Diego State. He's had a lot of coaching experience. He coached at Ball State from 2003 to 2008, 34-38, not a lot of success. Then he went on to San Diego State, which is where he's at right now. He went 13-12 from 2009 to 2010. Then he tried his hand at Michigan. Didn't do all that well. 31-20. Back to San Diego State in 2020. And he went 12-2 last year. So he's kind of rebounding from that Michigan fiasco. So, yeah, I think he'd be a pretty good head coach at Houston. A lot of experience. Learned from his mistakes. And he's doing pretty good at San Diego State, and I think he'd bring that experience and success to Houston. So that's the coaching train vacancies. Picking one coach from one team, and they have to pick another coach from another team, and on down the list. It's a long train, but I think it's plausible. I think it could happen. Now, besides the actual coaching train, there's a couple other spots. I'm looking at Texas and Auburn. Texas hired Steve Sarkisian last year, but they went 5-7, 7th in the Big 12. So he's on a very short leash. Same thing with Auburn. Brian Harsin went 6-7 at Auburn. They finished 6th in the SEC West, so he's on a short leash. The two names that I'd be looking at for Texas and Auburn would be number one, Dave Aranda from Baylor. Last year was his second year, but he went 12-2, Big 12 champs. And then Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. Last year they went 13-1 and had a playoff berth. The weird thing is Luke Fickell is the wild card in this whole thing. I mean, he can mess up the train scenario that I set up and fit into one of those coaching vacancies. Or he can mess up the Texas and Auburn thing and be hired by one of those two schools. Or he could stay put at Cincinnati. So the wild card in all of this is Luke Fickell, because you better believe he's a high commodity no matter what school you're talking about, whether it's the school he's at right now, Cincinnati, or all the other schools that I've talked about in this video. So Texas and Auburn might be trying to outbid each other for Dave Aranda if they were to fire their head coach. For Texas, it'd be Steve Sarkisian, and for Auburn, it'd be Brian Harsin. But we might have to wait till next year to see that situation unfold. And I do think Dave Aranda would be a pretty good hire for either of those institutions. Y'all let me know what you think about my coaching train. Where did maybe I get it wrong? Who would you put where? Let me know in the comments section of this video. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.